Let me share some of the biggest lessons I've learned from a lifetime spent building dreams. First, if you think that you're too young to do something great, let me tell you that you are wrong. You're not too young. In America, with drive and ambition, young people can do anything. Second of all, and very importantly, you have to love what you do. I rarely see somebody that's successful that doesn't love what he or she does. Third thing is to think big. You know, you're going to do something, you might as well think big, because it's just as hard to solve a small problem as a big problem, and it's just as much energy and everything else, except the result is going to be a smaller one. So love what you do, but think big. Fourth is work hard. Work hard. Fifth is don't lose your momentum. You just want to keep it going, and you have to know if you are losing it, you have to know when you're losing it, so maybe you stop and maybe it's time to stop. Number six, if you want to change the world, you have to have the courage to be an outsider. In other words, you have to take certain risks and do things a little bit differently. Otherwise, if that weren't the case, everybody would be successful. Number seven is to trust your instincts, common sense. You can go very far in life with common sense. Eighth, everybody should believe in the American dream. It's real, it's there, and it's right before you. Ninth, think of yourself as a winner. The power of positive thinking. In recent years, too many of our young people have really been taught to think of themselves as victims. But in America, we reject that idea that anyone is born a victim. Our heroes are the ones who take charge of their own destiny despite the odds. And next is to be an original. The old-time greats were people who had the confidence to be a little different. God only created one of you, so don't try to be someone else. Finally, and most importantly, never, ever give up. I've learned that perseverance is everything, so whatever happens, no matter where you are in life, stay optimistic and just keep pushing forward. Never let anyone tell you that something is impossible. Ever, ever, ever. In America, the impossible is what we all do best.
Good morning. Happy Friday. Good morning, Robert. I'm Tabitha Hassell with Tabs on Tap. Going to be joined here in just a moment with Col Joe Adams of the Washington Guard. Can't wait to catch up to Col Joe Adams. Just a couple things running through my mind before we get started today. Lots of things to talk about, by the way. I just remind everybody, I can't see who's watching the show. I have no way to know. And so therefore, if I don't say hi to you, it's just because I don't know you're out there. But I always try to say hi to people who are commenting. Good morning, Linda. And very quickly, before Col Joe Adams joins us, I know I haven't been here since Monday. I went in for my PET scan on Tuesday. It was kind of crazy. If you've ever had a PET scan before, they inject you with radio tracer, and then you sit there for an hour and you wait for the radio tracer to go to all those bad areas, because they attach like a glucose sugar type substance to the radio tracer. And if you have any areas of severe inflammation or infection or cancer, then that sugar, because obviously tumors and that inflammation and infection, they are energized by sugar. And longer story than we'll get into today. But anyway, I went, they gave me the injection, and then the machine broke. So I had to go back on Wednesday. Thankfully, they got me scheduled right away. I got the test done. Unfortunately, not quite the results I wanted. Some of you may recall that I had a couple lung nodules and enlarged lymph node, a mediastinal lymph node, the upper right paratracheal lymph node. And when I went in the last time and had my biopsy, the only thing they got back was that the lymph node was necrotic, and that the lung nodules, the only area of my lung they could reach, the only material that came back was some weird gram-positive cocaine, which they said really was just a contamination and not actually the lung nodules. The other lung nodules they couldn't reach. Well, anyway, to make this speed quite a little bit further along, the most recent PET scan showed it's kind of weird. Nothing has grown, but it has changed. So the lung nodules before had very mild activity. Now it's still, minor activity, but it's, double in one of them than what it was before. The lymph node is higher in activity as far as it's more metabolic than what it was. But now what worries me is the lymph nodes next to that lymph node are also metabolic. So I'll probably have to go in for another biopsy. It doesn't mean it's malignancy. What they do when they give you your PET scan report, and it can be kind of scary until you really understand how these things work and how the radiology works. So if you ever get a PET scan and you read this, don't freak out because it's easy to freak out. Like on my PET scan, it says suspicious for malignancy, on my lymph node, the two lung nodules. But that does not mean that you have, or even that they necessarily think that you have a malignancy. That is just something they have to put on the form because if it is metabolically active, they have to say that it's suspicious. So I'm not over, worked up about it. I still think it's probably inflammation, infection, but we'll see when the time comes. Good morning, Abe. Good morning, Sherry. Good morning, Robert. And because the weather and the pollen has changed, drought. I'm not sure what you mean. That's not what's wrong with me. No, mine's been going on for over a year. I don't know what's happening there. But either way, we're going to be bringing Colonel Joe Adams in to join us. He's been waiting in the wings long enough. Good morning, Kim. And something I'm going to talk about as soon as we have Colonel Joe Adams join us is liberal hate. I've just got to talk about it today because I had a very strange incident this morning. So we'll see if he's ready for us. And when he is, we will bring him in. Let's see here. All right, I see him there. Good morning, Colonel Joe Adams. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Oh, yeah, I feel great. my scan doesn't agree, but I feel perfectly fine. Good to have you this morning, as
Yeah.
always. It's been a while. We were going to have you on Monday. Then, of course, or was it Monday? Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? I take that back. I thought I had a show on Monday, but actually, because of that Amazon services situation,
Yeah.
the streaming service I used was down. So you did not join us on Monday, but happy to have you here. Do you have any big plans this weekend?
There's a event in Ellisville tomorrow called Smoking for Vets Barbecue. It's at Clancy's in Ellisville. The guard will have this is a big deal. They've already raised $47,000. Wow. This is for all the vets around the community. And of course, we get to participate. Washington Guard will be there with an information table, and I'll be there from 11 to 4 tomorrow. So it's a good event. Come out, say hi. Some of you people, I know your names. I can't put them to the face. Come out and say hi to me, and I'm sure it'll tell a few war stories. So
I love it.
Yeah, big event. News Talk STL has been promoting it all week, so it should be a lot of fun and good food too. And it's a 501c3 or whatever the thing is.
Oh yeah.
Everything's tax deductible if that pertains to you. So anyway, I've been having I used to not believe in coincidences. Nothing, everything's for a reason. And then something happened to me when I was in Mexico one time. Went to check into a hotel, had highways blocked off, no hotels, nowhere. I was racing a car back from Guatemala to Laredo, Texas, in reenactment of the Pan American Highway opening. So me and my crew get to a hotel, and there's no rooms anywhere because of the rains and the blocks off the roads. And so we're going to sleep in the parking lot. And then all of a sudden, I'm up there speaking the best Spanish I can, trying to bribe my way into the hotel, and there aren't any. And I told the crew, I said, "Well, that's just the way it is, man. Just buckle up, and we're going to sleep in our cars tonight." And all of a sudden, I hear a voice in the back of the room, and this is a big lobby. And over all the conversation, I hear something, and I know that name. I turn around, and it's a friend of mine from St. Louis.
Mm.
So, and I said, "You staying here?" He goes, "Yeah." He asked me if I was staying. I said, "Yeah, we can't get a room." He goes, "Well, I have the penthouse, so you and your pit crew are ready if you want to stay in the penthouse." So I go out to the race cars, and I go, "Hey guys, I got us a room." And they said, "You got us a room?" I thought there wasn't any rooms. I said, "Well, no, I got us the penthouse." And they're all going like, "Colonel, come on. Nobody's getting rooms. It's packed, and you got the penthouse." I go, "Yep." So that was a coincidence. Now, which is segue into Pritzker, J.B. Pritzker. I mean, this clown. Okay, so coincidence. And my point is this. When did they announce in the public that Pritzker had won $1.3 million gambling, playing poker? When was that? A couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, I didn't hear that at all. I must have missed that.
No, so this is what I'm talking about, coincidences. This is no coincidence. Now, Pritzker admits on TV that he won $1.3 million playing poker. A couple of weeks later, Patel stands up and tells the public about the big investigation on sports gambling and illegal poker games. Now, all right. So now this is just food for thought. If the mafia was rigging high-stake poker games in their favor, couldn't they also rig the poker games in somebody else's favor? So
of course.
This is just hypothetical, okay? Now, I'm not coincidence. This makes me crazy. So what if the mafia rigged Pritzker's poker game so he would win? And then either he was a co-conspirator, I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, or maybe the mafia went to him after the poker game and said, oh, by the way, we set it up so you would win. Now, first of all, why is a governor even gambling? It's bad image for his office.
Well, he in himself is just a bad image for the country. I don't think he's too worried about it.
I'm just saying, so what is that a coincidence that this information was released about his poker winnings, and then 2 weeks later, they find out the mafia's been rigging poker games, high-stake poker games, and I think it's ingenious because they actually have a dealing machine or a shuffle machine, whatever it is, that stacks the deck.
Right.
Ingenious. In the contact, now I've known about the contact lenses for a long time. The CIA's used those for years for secret messages and whatever, to read like basically something on the verge of like invisible ink, something like that. So that's nothing new.
Right.
But these, these NBA players, I had a dealing with some NBA players years ago in the gun world, and I actually I asked this gun dealer, I said, why do these NBA players have machine guns? And these are some are white NBA players, and I said, why would they risk their careers and so they could own illegal guns? And the guy that told me this is, well, because they're not just happy being superstars, they want to be bangers. And I had no idea what he was talking about. But these guys, the NBA, they've been out of control for a long time. But anyway, think about that poker thing, because now wouldn't it be interesting if they come back and announce something about how he's connected to this?
That'll never happen, Colonel Adams. You know why that'll never happen? Because he truly is untouchable. I know people who work for him. I got to be careful what I say. I know somebody who works with him very closely and who is really good friends with him. And I am telling you, he is untouchable. He's protected. And I'm not going to get into the details there. I don't get myself in trouble, but he truly is untouchable. And I'll tell you, he just barely won his reelection. He just barely won. And I'll tell you, if he keeps on, I could care less about how much money he wins at the casino. But I'll tell you what, if he keeps on the trajectory that he's on here in the state of Illinois, now he's wanting to raise property taxes. I've heard as much as 60, 80%. I'll tell you what, right now, living in the state of Illinois, I pay $2,000 a month in property taxes. Now, where do you think that's going to go if they raise property taxes? And what does it even cover? Nothing in this area. It all goes to Chicago. He's a dangerous person for so many different reasons. And yes, he's got the system rigged, probably in gambling too. And, a lot of those NBA guys, what you have to remember, and this comes back to all sports, all professions really in life, not just professional athletes. And I've talked about this many times over the years, is that you have to remember, they were all high school students at one time. They all have lives outside of, their professional sports and being professional athletes. And if some of them were gangbangers before they got into sports, well, guess what? They're going to be gangbangers once they get into sports, because they don't lose that element. Now, some do, Some do, but a lot don't. And that goes the same for the ones that are pedophiles or the ones that are, whatever it is they might be doing.
Yeah, but that's just was shocking that these guys have all these guns, illegal guns, and because they're not satisfied with being superstars, they want to be bangers. So let them go ahead. Hey, one more thing on Pritzker. He's went too far this time. Well, maybe. So he gets on Fox News the other day and says that there's a hidden agenda of Trump with these National Guard troops. That Trump is sending National Guard troops not to fight crime in the blue cities, but to put the troops in place to steal the next election coming up. He actually said that the troops.
I'm sure he doesn't care.
Yeah, the troops are there for the upcoming elections to steal those. Well, they got to know. Well, it takes one to know one, and they got to know all about stealing. And so that's just bizarre. Just listen to him. And he's a good.
I try not to.
He's a good salesman. He's actually believable. I think he actually believes that stuff. But anyway.
And the people who know him, Colonel Adams, they love him. They say he's a lot of fun. They love hanging out with him. They love working for him. They say that they know that I know people who are very close to him, and they all just love him. And they're conservatives and Republicans, and they love Trump. But for whatever reason, they love Pritzker. And I just don't get it. I don't get it. I really don't get it.
He's disgusting.
He is.
Another thing that never ceases to amaze me is, a lot of these things that Donald Trump does and Donald Trump says, he's baiting the Democrats to look like asses. I mean, this thing with the White House development is a good thing. And when he throws that out there, the Dems go crazy. How he's ruining the White House. It's not his house. Even if you show them over the decades, presidents did that. Dwight D. Eisenhower gutted the entire White House except for the exterior walls. But they don't count that. They don't count that. Donald Trump's out to ruin everything. And I can't wait to see what he names it. But he continuously baits the Democrats and gets them. And when this thing is finished, they're not thinking ahead. All they're doing right now is bashing Trump. How dare he do this? But when the end product is finished, it's going to be fantastic, and then they'll shut up.
It's going to be a beautiful. It's going to be a beautiful ballroom, no question about it. Here's how I feel, Colonel Adams. I have no problem with raising the entire place, or if they have to, because it's a historical area. Save the current White House as a historical area and build a new one. I am sure what's on Donald Trump's mind is that he went to Qatar not too long ago, visited their presidential palace. He goes to all of these different countries and visits their version of the White House. And it's always these big, beautiful, homes and big, beautiful government buildings. And here we are dealing with something that's very old, very outdated, that again has not had any type of big construction like what he's doing since, and what did you say, since the 40s? It's been a long time. And, but we as Americans, we're very sentimental and we like to hold on to things. We don't like change. And so to so many Americans, it's just preposterous to think that he might want to make any changes to the White House or do anything different because it's historical. But you know what? We and our president, whether it's Trump or someone else, they deserve to live in an updated institution. If they have to live there, at least make it nice.
Have you ever been to the White House?
Only in the bottom floor.
Mm-hmm. Well, I spent a lot of time there. And believe me, if people haven't been to the White House is not that big.
Right. It's not. It's very small.
We had a code name for the White House when I was up there with the Marine Guard, and behind the backs of President Nixon when I was there, we used to call it Graceland because it reminds you of Graceland. Some of the rooms are like really small. So, but that's the way it was back then when they originally built the White House. But the White House is not that big.
It's not very big, and the presidential suite is very tiny. It's a very small apartment. And I don't think people necessarily realize that either, because, in Donald Trump's former term, a lot of people talk, well, why don't they want to stay there? Why don't they want to live? I mean, would you want to? People
No,
wanting to bomb you, every day and
no.
living in this little tiny apartment.
Yeah,
I
you mean,
wouldn't probably want to either.
the Marine barracks is right there, and so people stay on campus. But and then Hillary got to run her mouth about how he's destroying the White House. I go, but people forget that when the Clintons left the White House, Hillary stole to China.
Right.
She stole
More than China. Yeah.
Historical property. Now, wasn't it Martha Washington's China or something?
I don't know about that, but I don't recall, but I do remember
Yeah.
it wasn't just China, it was furniture and a
Right.
lot of other things, and she was actually forced to return it. It was a
Right.
really big, deal of time. But here's something I want to touch base on really quickly, and that is Lori's comment here. She said, could there have been maybe a better time to do this? Because right now we have so many people struggling to feed their families. And I want to comment on that because I made a Facebook post about something similar and people just were not happy with me at all. And here's the thing. Yes, we absolutely do need a beautiful ballroom. There's no question about it. Yes, the money came from private donors. But what I also worry about, Colonel Adams, is that the optics of it are not good. And I know people are not going to be happy about that. You might not be happy about me saying that. I get it. It's not coming out of the taxpayer money. But there are people who are really struggling right now. Look at all the people, and I know there's a lot of people who like to joke about people who are on SNAP benefits who don't need them. Yes, there's a lot of fraud within the system, but there's also a lot of people who really need it. And I think and I know, when we look at the world around us and the economy and the people struggling, I swear to you, just a day ago, I was reading, I was online and somebody told me that their good friend committed suicide this weekend. Lived in a big, beautiful home, but guess what? He was struggling financially and he didn't want anyone to know. And that happened right here in the St. Louis area. And people are struggling, and I would like to see a lot of these people get some help.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a private investigator, I had one case where a guy had lost a lot of money in the stock market and killed himself. And nice family, beautiful children, lived in Ladue, and he went out in the woods and hung himself. And he lost $50,000. That's it, $50,000, and the guy kills himself. People are struggling, yeah, and they're hurting. But when Deanna, before our last banquet we just had, which was incredible, Jamie Allman's still talking about it on the radio. She come to me, she says, with the way things are and the economy and all that, do you think that we should have our event this year? I go, absolutely.
Well, yeah,
Absolutely.
you're
Go.
first
No, plan the dive the plan, as scuba divers say. No, keep going forward. And that's what Donald Trump's doing.
Oh, yeah, and I understand. And I'm not bashing him for doing what he's doing. The money is not coming from taxpayers. It's coming. But I think what a lot of people, and I'm not agreeing with liberals by any means, but I think what a lot of people are saying, the liberal people are far too harsh for me to agree with anything they're saying. But even people I know, they're like, it just doesn't look good right now because there's people who are, worrying about how are they going to pay. Food prices right now all-time high in many different categories, not just beef. People paying these outrageous utility bills. What, Ameren just raised their rates by about 60%. Now, people who live near these big data centers they're building, they're raising their rates by 100%. People are having a really tough time getting by. And I think, and trust me, relief is coming. Donald Trump is working on it. He is working to lower food prices. He's trying to figure out ways to help the American people. I have no doubt about that. You can hear and you can see his brain processes going. But at the same time, I think people want help now, not later. They need it now. And what are we going to do? And we have, 40 something million people, 667,000 in the state of Missouri who aren't going to get their SNAP benefits next week.
Yeah, I listen to some of those crazy people that's sucked off the government all these years, and that's just their way of life.
Oh, for some people, yeah, but absolutely, Colonel Adams. But we, you know what, we cannot discount. We cannot discount that there are people out there who are elderly, who are truly disabled, who are truly in situations, and I know there's a lot of fraud in the SNAP system. There's no question about it. But what about those people?
Yeah, but those people are on the internet saying that they're going to walk in Walmart and steal the food and everything else.
Correct.
No, we're talking about
Correct.
two different apples and oranges here. Yeah, there's people out there that need help, and we should help them. The other people are just a bunch of parasites, and probably a big percentage of that SNAP program are parasites. Go get a job. Quit having 6 kids by 5 different men. I mean, I've been in a courtroom when the judge says, you have 5 different fathers to your 6 kids? Yeah. And so how much are those fathers paying you to raise those kids? Nothing.
That's right.
They're in jail. Oh, really? So you got 6 kids, 5 different fathers. They give nothing to the family. And then you go in Walmart and steal cosmetics. Really?
Well, it's a way of government aid is a way of life for some people.
It is.
There's no question about it that there are people out there who I have come across one of those people actually one time that I talked to, and they had, I think, 5 kids, and they weren't by different people. They were by 2 different people, but either way, they were getting, I think, $1,000 a month in benefits for each child. This person did not work. They didn't do anything. Their children, sadly, grew up to be drug addicts and a whole bunch of other things, and they now they have kids, and they have learned to live off the system, and it's a big vicious cycle that continues on. And those people need to go and get a job. They need to be more resourceful. But there are people out there who have messaged me who are, again, elderly or disabled, people who just cannot work even if they wanted to, legit people on the system. And I do worry about people like that.
Yeah, but the Democrats shut down the government.
Oh, it's absolutely the Democrat fault. No question about it.
The bottom line is they want to give all this money to the illegals that shouldn't even be here. And there's people out there that could use the money. I say give it to the poor people who really deserve it. And so they just make things worse. They continue to make things worse. But Trump's got an attitude of this about the right time to do what he's doing. When is the right time?
Yeah.
His attitude is, well, when's the right time? Because he'd get hit with this stuff too. No, you just need to do it. This country was based on people just get in there and do it. Well, now's not a good
time. I agree with that.
Now's not a good time. Well, that's crap. Just do it. So, I mean, him and I.
You mean the government? Now's not a good time. You mean for the government shutdown?
People are saying the government shut down. Well, that's the Democrats because they want to give the money to the illegals. And people say, well, now's not a good time because the economy's bad. You shouldn't be doing this extra wing on the White House. First of all, it's not costing the taxpayer a damn dime. And just he's a go-getter. Just all these. There are days in the White House that Trump gets more done than Joe Biden did in 4 years.
Oh, well, of course, because did he even show up at the White House at all? You'll never convince me that Joe Biden was ever even in the White House to begin with. I completely agree with the government shutdown. I know it's difficult. I know we got a couple, months to get through. Who knows how long this could stretch on, but we have to hold the line. I don't want Republicans to cave in. There's no question about it. And thankfully, somebody stepped up. We think it was Elon Musk. We don't know. I don't want to necessarily give credit, but I think it is. They gave $130 million to pay our troops out of their own pockets.
That makes the That makes the Democrats even crazier.
Because they voted. Democrats
who else could pull that off except Trump?
Exactly. Democrats voted against the bill to pay our troops and essential government workers. Some anonymous person stepped up and says, "You won't do it. Well, I will." How amazing is that?
That's not over. He's got other ones too. So, the Democrats at this point can't even get any sleep at night because every time they turn around, Trump's just slamming them, but he's baiting them. Right. Anyway, I am to the conclusion that Donald Trump's the greatest president since George Washington.
Oh, there's No question about that. I don't agree with everything he does, but but that's usually foreign policy,
Yeah.
and maybe I get a little impatient and I want things to happen here, sooner. But I know he's working on those things. I could never disagree that he is the best president maybe we've ever had, and I know as hard as it is, and as hard as it is for me to see people struggle, I know there are plans in the works. Why I know that, Colonel Adams, because people, including myself, I was really aggravated when Donald Trump said, well, let's buy beef from Argentina. Because as you know, we just gave, now this is one of the things I'm not happy about, not that, but I'm not happy that we gave Argentina $40 million. I'm not happy about that at all. We, do stabilize their economy. What about 40 million to stabilize our own economy? That could have been our, checks they sent out to Americans versus sending it to Argentina, who is apparently our new friend. But however, when Donald Trump said he wanted to buy beef from Argentina, to cut costs here in the United States, people were freaking out, including myself. I'm like, no, we can't do that. We have to support our own ranchers, right here in the United States. But you know what that tells me, though, despite the fact that I don't like the idea of that, he's thinking about it. There's plans in action. They're working on it. They're trying to figure out a way right now while we talk how to lower food prices for Americans. And that maybe Argentina is not the best example. Maybe that's not what he'll go with. But they will come up with a plan.
I have faith in my president, and obviously, like we've talked before, unless you're in the Situation Room, you really don't know everything that's going on. We get about
Correct.
maybe 25% accuracy as far as the news goes. But this guy's a financial genius. He's a builder. When I first heard that about the Argentine beef, I kind of like, oh, it's a little bit, but there's more to it. Just have faith in your president. He'll work the. There's no way.
And I certainly.
There's no
What's that?
way. There's no way Donald Trump would hurt our farmers and our cattle ranchers.
Well, I agree. And that's why I said I'm sure he's trying to come up with answers. And what we also have to remember when he's trying to come up with answers is that in this country, there's a monopoly on meat processing, whether that's pork or beef, chicken. There is a monopoly. And I'm sure he's probably trying to figure out a way, how do we lower prices and with our ranchers and farmers who are not part of this monopoly? And that's a tricky situation to deal with. I know answers are coming. I just hope people can hold on that long. And particularly some people, because here's another thing, Colonel Adams, that we have to talk about whether or not we can say there's let's just use Missouri example, 667,000 people in the state of Missouri who are receiving SNAP benefits, regardless of how shouldn't have it. What concerns me, and I want to know your take, because maybe I shouldn't be concerned. What concerns me is two things. A, what is it going to do to the economy across the country? Because grocery stores are expecting those sales. Think about that, 667,000 people just in the state of Missouri alone, 40 million people across the United States. That's money that's not going back into the economy. Now, and then secondly, is while people might be joking about going into Walmart and stealing food, what happens when they actually do it? Because people are going to do that. Or they're going to come out and they're going to steal your food.
Yeah, and it's the same people I'm talking about that
That's right.
lives off the system.
That's right.
They think they have a right to do that. It's a gift. The government owes them that.
Yeah.
The government doesn't owe anybody anything. But I'm for the people that actually need it. And as an investigator, I worked bad areas, and I know who those people are. But I also saw the parasitical type of operations that some of these people have. These food banks. The other day, a police officer said they're cleaning out the food banks, taking all the free food. Then they found out that a vendor went down the street, opened on a parking lot, and was selling the stuff.
Oh my gosh!
And making runs back. He had runners going back and forth and standing in line to get more free stuff for 5 blocks away to go sell it at a discount.
Yeah.
So
people are going to take advantage.
They make me sick.
Yeah, there's low life that take advantage, but we have to face the real fact that if people have to face 2 months without having that opportunity to buy food, because despite whether they're scoundrels or not, they still need to eat. So are they going to start stealing? Are they going to start robbing people? Are we going to see burglaries where they're taking people's food? I mean, how exactly is this going to play out?
Yeah. What was those three things I used to say? We're one meal against disruption, 2 meals away from destruction, 3 meals away from chaos. So it didn't take long that these people start missing meals and can't feed their kids for whatever reason. It could get really nasty, really nasty. I still have faith in my president, though. Hey, somebody, you can't see the chat room, can you?
I can see. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you got it back? And Dan he commented that the U.S. just took out 6 more drug boats. Good. But here's the danger in that, okay? And I'm 100% smoke them, okay? What they're going to do is they're going to send out a boat that looks like a drug boat, and it's not going to be a drug boat, and we're going to shoot it out of the water, and that's going to change everything. They'll put women and children in there, send them out, and then they get smoked. So watch and see if they don't do that.
Well, Colonel,
all these boats drug boats? I don't know. I'm not there, but I say
I have something for you. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay, we're going to kill them. They're going to be like dead. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I figured like that.
Yeah, like dead. I agree. Kill them all, let God sort them out. I don't care. You smuggle drugs, I don't care. And if a few innocent people get caught in the middle, well, that's called collateral damage. But now understand, now you're talking to an old Marine here. So yeah, I've seen some horrible stuff, and it's collateral damage. So I'm going to get caught for that one.
Well, and as we're speaking, I think that's what Dan was saying, is they just took out another drug boat yet this morning, and they will continue to do so. I don't know when these people are going to decide, hey, we should just stop trying, because it's not going to happen. And then Nicolas Maduro, of course, the president of Venezuela, he is now threatening the United States, claiming that he has surface-to-air missiles. He has all of these different other missiles, and that he can reach the United States with. So I don't expect him to last very long.
No, he didn't have the right missiles. He might have got some dummy stingers, red eyes, but that would be about the extent. So we're not worried about him. But now understand, people, this government is actually involved in the narcotic trade. They're not just looking the other way, like in Mexico, where some of the people are on bribes. No, they're into the production and transportation of these drugs. The government, Maduro. So if we're bombing his drug boats now, I say hit them. But now the problem is, now he's talking about hitting the cartel inside Mexico. Well,
yes, but and they've been planning that. They've been planning that since before he took office, and it's going to happen.
Yeah,
but Colonel Adams, I think probably by now how mind works, as does everyone who listens to the show. Is the next question is the obvious question, is that what's going to happen when we do put a big dampening on the drugs coming into this country? You see these areas where these people are all strung out and hunched over because they've been taking all these drugs and strung out on the streets. Well, what happens? How desperate do people get when they don't have that drug supply, when they can't find it, can't afford it? It's just not there.
Yeah, but you can't look at it that way. No, you can't. No, that's for every action is a reaction. That's too bad.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not where I'm going. Where I am going with is, when people get desperate, they do desperate things. So as these drug dealers get desperate, as the people on drugs get desperate, what are they going to do? I could care less. They're not getting their fix, of course. But, I always worry about the crime aspect. Are we going to see an increase in crime or assaults or that type of thing?
But you can't look at it that way. You've got by feeding the problem and allowing it to happen just makes it worse. No, you're a drug user. You're passed out on the street. Too bad for you. Too bad.
Well, of course, obviously, it's too bad for them. And what Donald Trump is doing is absolutely 100% the correct thing to do. We have to stop drugs from coming into this country. Almost 400,000 people a year die. I have lost 2 brothers. One of my brothers was a heroin addict, and he died. I am very much against drugs, very much against drug dealers, and it's very close to my heart. But I also know, and I worry about other innocent people on the streets who have to come into contact with these crazy people.
If you're a drug dealer, you deserve to die.
Absolutely so. I couldn't agree more.
Hey, I got to ask you a question because I'm not too hip on some of this stuff. The Super Bowl halftime thing. They got who's the performer, the main thing? What's his
I don't
Dumb
know,
Bunny?
some bunny guy.
Dumb Bunny, Bugs Bunny. Who's this guy? What's good about it is I heard some chatter because I've got some people in high places like in Farina, and this the Turning Point counter halftime show has got a lot of people worried because these people. So this is their biggest advertisement opportunity of the year, the halftime show. Some people just watch the halftime show, period. Of course, I won't be watching it this year because of Dumb Bunny, and it's going to be in Spanish. I mean, who cares?
Right, but you're going to have the alternative of the Charlie Kirk show.
Yeah. So now, Charlie's going to. They're talking about doing a halftime show to counter that.
Correct.
And he's got country western stars lined up that want to do it. So, but the people who have paid how much? What is the commercial rate at the Is it $1 million?
Millions of dollars a minute.
What is it?
Millions of dollars a minute.
Well, those people right now may be asking for their money back. So we'll see.
But think about it this way. I know most of the Christians I know, the people who would already want to watch a Charlie Kirk halftime show, they're not going to be watching, they might watch the Super Bowl, but they're probably not going to be watching that halftime show. The numbers have been going down every single year. They've been dropping because you know what? We Christian conservatives, we're just fed up in general, with these NFL games and NFL teams to the point where a lot of the coaches, they get how we feel. They've lost a lot of money. Over their actions. And I think people started tuning out on these halftime shows a long time ago.
You know when this started? When they took a knee.
That's right.
I haven't watched a football game. Nobody was a bigger fan of the Cardinals than I was. Okay, because I played college ball. I tried actually try out for the Atlanta Falcons and made it to the 7th cut. So I'm football is a part of my life. The only reason I went to school is to play football, and I don't even watch it anymore. I don't because you take a knee on my country. I'm done with you. So I have boycotted it ever since then. I don't have anything to do with it. The halftime show, that's a different thing. But thanks. Mary said it's Bad Bunny. I thought it was. I honestly thought it was Dumb Bunny. See, I need to get out more. So thanks, Mary. I appreciate that. Anyway, I'll be watching the Charlie Kirk halftime show. I don't care what it is.
I'm not big. I haven't watched the Super Bowl in many, many years. And I do plan, if I'm not working, to watch the Charlie Kirk show, of course, because who wouldn't support Charlie Kirk other than a bunch of mentally deranged liberals, right?
Yeah. Hey, on this Bolton indictment or whatever is going on, I have never liked Bolton from day one. I told Deanna when he become part of the Trump administration, I go, Trump's going to be sorry on this one. And I was right. Of course, I said the same thing about Jeff Sessions. Jeff's a nice guy, but he's too nice. And I met with the attorney general and had a conversation, and he just didn't get it because all I talked to him about was the border issue and what the damage that Obama had done to the Border Patrol and how we were losing Border Patrol agents. But Trump, of course, Trump turned the whole thing around. And they said when the Democrats retake the White House, if and when, it's a matter of, and they will eventually.
And they will. They most certainly will.
They're going to immediately reverse every Donald Trump.
Every single thing.
And they say that.
And it'll probably happen in 2028 because they're going to find a way. They're never going to allow this to happen again. Unless Trump really uses his term to the best of benefits, they will lie, cheat, steal, and worse to win that office back in 2028. No question.
I'll tell you how crazy the Dems are and evil. Now, this is an evil. When people stand there and do the wrong thing and hurt somebody who's trying to do the right thing for their own gains, for power, money, whatever. And I got news. There's probably a lot of people in the Senate and Congress that are sad that the border is closed now. I mean, I talk to the Border Patrol every week. They call me or I call them, talk to my friends, how things are going. And you can just hear in their voice that they're just so happy. And the suicides have stopped and they're back doing their job again. And the border's secure. This country is safer now than it has been in years, except during Biden, the problem's already here. Look around.
Well,
It's here.
also, yeah, but the thing is yes, our borders are closed. They're coming up with a new AI program, in fact, to provide some assistance along our border. So I feel very secure in that. What I worry about is now we're locked in the barrel with all the people that hate us. And, and that's a whole different situation. And, when I started out the show talking about this a little bit, for anyone wasn't there, I wanted to talk about liberal hate. And that kind of rolls into that, is that Colonel Adams, I think you already know, and I want to make this very clear for myself, you don't have to agree, is that I don't dislike Democrats. I don't dislike liberals. I don't dislike anyone unless they do something to me personally. I dislike Democrat policies and liberal policies. It's about the policy, not the people. But they are a completely different breed. They hate us, the people. It's not about policy. They hate us. I don't know if Colonel Adams, if you're on Threads, it's similar. It's I think it's owned by Meta, and everything I post on Facebook goes straight to Threads. And I probably should stop that. But so what happens is I've been heavily trolling the Threads, the people, liberals over there on Threads, just because I'm trying to see how hateful they can be. And I'll tell you, something very interesting happened this morning. There's a woman who replied back. She goes, "Just shut up. Nobody likes you anyway." And I looked. And she's a producer, film director in Hollywood. Her husband, as a matter of fact, I'm not going to name his name, is also a producer and director who just directed a movie with George Clooney. And I explained to her, I said, somebody like, something along the lines of, someone like you, why would you say something like this so publicly? She's like, "I don't give a F." And I'm like, I'm sure she doesn't. And I went and I looked at her pages. This woman is vile. I mean, vile. And yet she volunteers to help veterans and all these different things. She hates us. It's not just that she hates Trump. She hates all of us. And these people are dangerous. They are dangerous. And it is starting to really worry me that these people they're mentally ill. And I'm not talking about Democrats and Republicans. I mean, Democrats and liberals. I'm talking about a subset of liberals that are mentally ill who hate us with every fiber of their being.
Well, I hope they hate me because I'm an example of what they really, really hate. Hey, Dan chimed in. Bad Bunny is a bad bet for the NFL. That's pretty good, Dan. I like that. So
Yes.
hey, I actually thought the guy's name Dumb Bunny. Anyway, so, what else? What else you got, Tab?
Well, something else I wanted to really touch base on, because I don't have too much more time, because I've got lots going on today. So I want to show you this. I want to get your thoughts on what this is. This happened early this morning. Did you see this already? Where there was a truck. Oh, what are they called? I'll show you the video. U-Haul truck trying to reverse its way into the Coast Guard there in Alameda, California. Just wait until you see this, because this is pretty wild. All right, I tried to mute it. All right, I'm going to mute that for a second, Colonel Adams, because as you see here in just a second, the driver, I think he's on his phone. I'm not really sure he's not dead, that's for sure. He does something, and then guess what? He escapes. And as of the time this show started, from what I saw, he is still on the run. He was never caught or apprehended. It was a very strange scenario that I don't really fully understand. What was in the back of that truck? What was his purpose in doing that? I don't get it. And I don't think anyone knows quite yet.
Well, they should have kept firing, and then reload. How many shots did they get off? They must have got 100.
30, I heard. I
How
read
many?
that it was. I read that it was 30.
No, no, 30. No, you can count the shots if you can memorize the sound. And I've done that a long time ago. So no, there was more than 30, but they should have kept shooting. And why weren't they shooting these tires out anyway?
That's what a lot of people were asking, and not only that, but well, of course, right now we're just guessing because we don't know, and maybe they've updated it, and somebody on the comment line knows since then. But what was this person's intention? What do they have in the back of the U-Haul truck? Why did they want through that area so badly? This border crossing there in Alameda, California. It's really odd. And they had a mask on. They were prepared. And then knowing that this could be a big threat, what if they had a BOMB, in the back of that truck? Why didn't they take the guy out? I'm very confused by that.
Yeah, if I watch that video too much, I get upset because I without a doubt would have pursued and finished the job.
And he got away. He's on the run. They don't even know where he is.
Wow. How
as of this morning.
How can that happen? But it did happen. So, like I say, I wasn't there. If I was there, it definitely would have been a different scenario. Hey, this people have to the Ukraine the reason Putin is so animate about Ukraine because the bottom line is this: that Ukraine, other than other countries in Europe, used to be a part of the Soviet Union. And I keep telling people, but you don't understand the Soviets. So I said Soviets, the Russian minds about Mother Russia. Putin actually thinks he's doing the right thing, no matter the cost of all these people being killed. He is convinced he's doing the right thing.
I agree with him. I think he's doing the right thing.
That is a very dangerous enemy. Very dangerous.
And we don't want him to be our enemy. And I don't think he will be. I think that he and Donald Trump, get along fine, but Donald Trump has to draw that line in the sand. A lot of times they save face, just like what happened with Iran. But, Putin, stated this weekend or this week again, I feel like it was a weekend because I wasn't here this week, that if in fact Ukraine receives those Tomahawk missiles, whether it comes from the United States or whether it comes from, I can't remember, there was a country over the weekend that bought some weapons from us to give them. I can't remember if it was somewhere in the Netherlands, Denmark or somewhere. But anyway, they bought weapons to give to Ukraine. And Putin was very clear that, hey, if those Tomahawks end up in the hands of Zelensky and they are fired at Russia, we will respond very aggressively, catastrophically. They're giving some very good warnings. If Colonel Adams, I know you know this, when Putin says he's going to react very aggressively, you know that he will do that. He doesn't back down.
No, this is not going well. I have friends that are Ukrainians. I've had dinner with them, been in their homes. When the Ukrainian military was trying to recruit me and give me a star to be one of the generals over there, and I turned it down. I could have made a lot of money, but it's because I don't believe in the war. Now, what would benefit the United States more? We're in a very, very dangerous time with Putin. Yes. He will do anything, whereas we will not.
Correct.
What would benefit I only care about the United States. And I told my Ukrainian friends that. And I said, you're Ukraine, and I understand you're prejudiced against Putin. I understand all that.
Yeah.
I don't care about that. Well, you don't care about our country. I go, no, I care about America more important. We're in a tough time. So what would benefit the United States more? If Ukraine got independence and Russia got pissed off and pushed a button? I'm for it would benefit the United States if Putin would just take Ukraine and be done with it. Of course,
and he very likely will.
Oh, yeah, they're not going to say, oh, then there's Poland. No. I'm talking about a country that was given up because of financial reasons when the Soviet Union went bankrupt, right? He wants it back because it's Mother Russia. The population wants it back because it's Mother Russia. Zelensky is just standing in the way. I'm for the United States. It would be better for the United States. End the war. Give them the damn country. and go on with our business. That's my
Well,
opinion. And you got,
exactly.
hey, you
Yeah.
probably got some things that you want to bring up and talk about. My guard dog's going off the charts outside, so somebody must be looking at my house.
Oh, of course, of course.
So I'm going to go take care of business. But hey, thanks for straightening me out. I'm going to go tell my wife it's Bad Bunny, not Dumb Bunny or whatever. So I'll see you next Monday.
Wonderful.
And hey, you guys come out there smoking for the vets, barbecue at Clancy's Irish Pub in Ellisville. Come out and say hi to me. Tell me how crazy you really think I am. Love you guys. I'll see you Monday, Tab. Okay.
Thank you, Colonel Adams. Hope you have a fantastic weekend.
And keep it handy. All right.
Thank you for joining us. That's Colonel Joe Adams with the Washington Guard. Very happy to have Colonel Adams, of course, join us. And let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to, right before he came on, my screen got a little messed up. So I'm trying to hurry up and fix it if I can. Let's see here. It says I have background music. I know I don't. All right, here we go. All right, that was Colonel Joe Adams with the Washington Guard. Very happy to have him join us. And he's right. I do have a couple of things I want to talk about. And I kind of wanted to finish what we were talking about when it comes to Russia. Thank you, Allison, for joining us. And because I do feel like things are kind of boiling. I know that Donald Trump and Putin are friends. They have said before, we're friends. We have a very amicable relationship. I have no doubt that the only reason why we didn't get into war with Russia under Biden is because Putin knew, or hoped anyway, that Trump was going to win this election, and he knew that that would change things, and it certainly has changed things. And earlier, like I said, I agree with 99% of what Trump does, but there's that 1% that I don't agree, and within that 1% is I don't think we should allow the sale of our weapons to anyone that's going to give them to Ukraine. I would hope that Donald Trump, would stick to his campaign promise, because it's not just about taxpayer money. Yes, I don't like taxpayer money to go to buy weapons to go to Ukraine, but I don't want to see the United States facilitate weapons going to Ukraine, because that still implicates us. Even if we are not the ones that made the sale, we're still brokering a sale for NATO, a NATO-backed country who is going to send those weapons to Ukraine it's still on our behalf. And I don't like that. I don't want us to do that. And I hope that we stop doing that. I understand. I feel like we're this beggar country where we need money so bad because we're in debt by $38 trillion that we're just taking money from anywhere we can get it. I don't want NATO's money. I don't want to support Ukraine, even if it's not taxpayer dollars. And so we're treading on very dangerous, water right here with Putin, because what will happen if Zelensky gets these weapons from another country? Because we're not the only country that has Tomahawk weapons. It could come from somewhere else that has nothing to do with us. If he starts launching these Tomahawk missiles at Russia, and Russia takes out a good portion of Ukraine, well, then we, the United States, being NATO, an ally of NATO, part of NATO, we're going to have to get involved in the mix. And I hope that doesn't happen. I don't want to see that happen. And it does really worry me. And I had another comment here. Let's see, that I wanted to respond to on the comment line. Talking about theories, yes, I do have a lot of theories about what's going on and things that worry me, because we as a country, now that we have these wonderful secure borders, now we have to worry about what's happening within the borders. We've sealed the door shut. It's almost like if you're in your house and you've let all these people in for a party, you don't know who they are. Things got out of control. They're all in your home. So you've gotten your security. You've closed all the doors. Nobody can get out. Nobody can come in. And now you've got to go through your house and see who is who and what do they want. And you might have some conflicts, while you're picking out the bad guys and kicking them out the door. And that's kind of what we're seeing as a country right now. I kind of sounded like Eric Johnson, didn't I? Getting a little analogy there. My analogies will never be as good as his. But what concerns me is now we've got to deal with what's in our borders. Think about that. Thousands of terrorists in our country. We have drug runners, cartels who were cutting off their lifelines. This is how they survive. It's how the cartels survive. They don't know any other way of life. They're hating us. They're hating our law enforcement officers. We have just absolute lunatics on the very far fringe left. Nancy Pelosi, I don't even think she's really that much of a liberal, but now she's threatening to arrest federal law enforcement agents in the state of California, and not only arresting them, but she's threatening that not only will she arrest them, but that they will never be released from jail because there's some kind of loophole where they can hold them in the state of California. And then we have, who else was it? Pritzker, of course, we talked about him a little bit with Colonel Adams, also threatening federal agents, about suing them, jailing them. And we have Lori Lightfoot from Chicago. Where she came from, I don't know. Haven't heard her name in a while. She's back in the mix. Now she's saying that she's creating some type of service. I don't know if it's an app or service or group. I don't really know what it is, but it's basically to dox federal agents. She wants to know who they are. She's trying to uncover their names and where they live and all this information about them. It's a very dangerous time right now to be a federal agent, to be any law enforcement officer, quite honestly. It's a very dangerous time. And I'll tell you, if you want to see some examples of the lunatic lefts, I'm telling you, it's easy to do over on Threads. It's very, very easy to do. And again, it's not about Democrats, it's not about liberals. I have a lot of Democrat liberal friends who are very good people, very honest people, very good people who would never want to hurt anyone. Yes, they absolutely hate Donald Trump, no question about it, because they hate his policies. They don't like him and his personality, but they don't hate us just because we support him. Whereas some of these people, they hate us. They really hate us. And I know Colonel Adams didn't, want to talk about it or didn't really want to get into some of these things, that I'm worried about. I'm not worried about drug addicts not getting their drugs. Good. And like Jay said, they'll eventually detox. Yes, they will. But what worries me is desperate people. Desperate people do desperate things. We've got drug cartels that are desperate. We've got drug addicts desperate to get their drugs, going to the cartels who can't sell them the drugs. Now they can, but eventually we're going to cut that pipeline down quite a bit. Drugs aren't going to be as easy to find. I worry about people who are struggling in life. Like Lori mentioned in the comment line, there's going to be people, whether you agree with who gets SNAP or not, that's not the point. The point is that people who do not have food, who cannot provide food for their children, even some of the best people who are really good people. I'm not going to say they're going to go out and steal food from Walmart or rob somebody to get it, but they're going to be in a very dire situation. They're going to be desperate. And then when we have people robbing the food banks, like not literally robbing, but going into the food banks, taking all the food and selling it down the road, that's a real problem. We have to feed a lot of people over the next couple months. And I am 100% for the government shutdown. We did the right thing. We have to hold the line. We have to keep the government shut down, no question about it. But we also have to worry, how are these people going to get fed? Because the states, I kind of really thought when it came down to the wire, the states would pick up the cost. And the states would say, okay, we'll take money out of this budget or this budget to make sure we give people food, even if it's just half the amount they would normally get. But they're not doing that. The states are saying, hey, sorry, we don't have the budget. We don't have the money. And yes, it does worry me. I'm not worried about the people who would take advantage of the system, but I am worried about what they might do in an act of desperation, or I'm worried about the elderly people or the children. And maybe that's just me. Maybe nobody else cares. Maybe I'm the only one that cares, but I do certainly worry about it. And Jay says, Democrats even want to start an ICE tracker website. Exactly. That's exactly what they're trying to do, is start and that's Lori Lightfoot's part of one of those programs. And Mary says, violent words from Dems and libs making us unsafe. Exactly, Mary. People can say all kinds of words. What's interesting, if you guys want to see really what these people think about us, go to Threads. If you go to Threads and you look at my profile, I've been doing this on purpose. I have been intentionally making posts only on Threads, not posts coming from Facebook, because I want to see how hateful these people are. Now, I have not said anything hateful at all to any of these people. As in fact, I very rarely ever even respond, but I'm trying to draw them out because I want to see how they truly feel on their side. Now, a lot of these profiles don't have names. They're just fake little monikers and so on. But some of them do have their real names. And I've looked up a couple. If somebody puts a real name on there, I actually go and I look them up. And like I said earlier, there was a woman on there who, she is some type of producer director. I've never heard of her or her husband. Her husband's some kind of producer director that just directed this film, that's been making its way through the film cycles, just the oh, what do you call it? I can't think of the right word for it now. And so anyway, I am like, how can somebody like that be so vile? Somebody who is so in the public, and how do people around her deal with it? I don't get it. And some of the other things people say, they make it very personal. It's not about policy to them. They hate us. They hate you. They hate me. They hate all of us. And when people hate us that badly, what are they going to do about it? Is words enough? Are they only going to use their words to express themselves? Or if I, instead of me being on a computer, if I'm face to face with this person, and trust me, I'm not saying anything mean or ignorant to these people. If I was face to face with them, would they say the same thing? Would they lash out? Would it be more than words, or would it stop with words? Or maybe they wouldn't say anything. Maybe they'd be polite, in person. I highly doubt it. These people have lost their minds. And again, it's not all Democrats, it's not all liberal. It is a subset of the far left fringe liberal group who are mentally ill. And that mental illness is coming out. And it does concern me because, I don't expect somebody to come to my door, but you know what? You never know. And the hatred they have in their hearts is just unbelievable. And of course, they're not Christians. They talk about being atheists and all this other stuff. And they call you names and talk about how you look, and just vile degenerates of society. It's really sad how far apart we are. I always say when it comes to policy, we're not that far apart. We could sit down and hammer out some policy between Democrats and Republicans and come up with some good middle ground policies. I have no doubt in my mind we could do that if the division, wasn't so great. And we continue to divide ourselves even more every day. But now we have this group of people who are just there's no hope for these people. And then what we've got to start worrying about, what's going to happen if they win the next election? Then where are we going to go? I certainly worry about it. I don't know about you guys. And Jay says, yes, people can be resourceful in a good way. And let's see here. Mary says, did you see the freaky lady with the pink hair said, watch your neck? No, Mary. Where was that at? I did not see that. And Jay says, social media allows these clowns a way to say things they would never say face to face. Also true, Jay. But I really think that a lot of these people would say it face to face. I think these are the same hateful people with the same hateful feelings and rhetoric that led to the death of Charlie Kirk. I really do. And that's why they celebrate his death. That's why they hate him so much, because he's a representation of all of us. And trust me, they would like to take all of us out just as easily as they did him. And that was even before Donald Trump won. They wanted to take us out. But again, I want to make it very clear. I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm not talking about liberals. I'm talking about a far 2% of the population. But 2% of the Democrats or 2% of liberals is still a pretty large number. And those people are absolutely manic. They are manic. Anyway, what else did I wanted to cover today? So go over to Threads. You'll see what I see. And you'll see the vitriol and hate that really represents their party. Pretty crazy. Speaking of, I only got a couple more things to talk about. Sweden. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. In Sweden, there was an African migrant who raped a 16-year-old Swedish girl. It went to court, and get this, Sweden will not deport this guy because they said that the rape was a very brief encounter. It wasn't a long enough situation to warrant his removal from the country. I mean, that's where we're going. That's the kind of people that these morons on the very far left, that fringe left group, support. That they would actually fight for this guy to stay in the country before they would fight to protect the 16-year-old girl that was brutally raped. It is. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable in my mind. Italy, they're going to ban burqas, other head coverings in public. I think we should do the same here in the United States. And this is what's so funny. I made a comment on Threads. Oh, I actually made it on Facebook. It transferred to Threads about Sharia law. And people were like, oh, people only practice Sharia law in their own family. It doesn't affect the community. You don't know what Sharia law is. You don't know what socialism is. And a lot of these people are in favor of Sharia law. They're in favor of socialism. That's how we ended up in this situation. People think, who would ever vote Mamdani in, to New York City? Well, these people would. These people would. They love him. They think he's fantastic. They think socialism is a good thing. They think there's nothing wrong with Sharia law, or they completely ban the idea that it could even possibly happen, in the United States. It's crazy. And Charlie says, hate little old mean. Well, I just don't think I can go on. Mary says, she was at some university saying that to Charlie Kirk. Oh, support it. Oh, I see. I see. Watch your neck. Mary, people like that. And I don't know if I saw that. I don't think I did, but she is one of many. She is one of many. Always keep that in mind. Why your head has to be on a swivel. She is one of many. They hate us. And as time goes on between now and 2028, they're going to hate us more. Just think, we're only 10 months in, almost 11 months in to 2025, and how much they hate us. Wait till they continue to see Donald Trump's policies between now and 2028. It's going to get really bad, really bad. Anyway, that's about it for me today. I don't really have much more to talk about. We've got a lot of trade talk going on. Donald Trump done with Canada. No more trade talk, he says. I think we'll find a solution with China. I don't think we're going to give them that 100% tariff. So we'll talk more about that next week when we learn a little bit more about what's going on with the tariffs. As of now, I plan to be here every day next week. I might get a work order, and that will keep me being here one morning, but I will for sure be here on Monday. You guys can't see it, but I have to keep explaining to people that my hands look like they're covered in dirt because I've been harvesting pecans. It is pecan season. And with all this wind, I've had all these pecans falling, and I have pecan dirt all over my hands. It's crazy. So if you see my hands, I promise they're not dirty. And I wear like 3 pairs of gloves. Last night I had 4 pairs of gloves on. Does not matter. The gloves, it just seeps through somehow. I don't even understand how that's possible. But it is a great time to harvest some pecans. I do hope you guys have a really great weekend. It's going to be pretty cold and chilly. I don't know if we're going to have any more warm days. Hopefully we do. Get that winterizing going. That is the best plan for right now. I'm going to spend my weekend winterizing, getting ready for winter so I don't have to do it later. Anyway, hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm Tabitha Hassell with Tabs on Tap, and I will see you guys all next week. Thank you. And Donna, you are never too late. You can go back and watch from the beginning. Jay, yes, walnuts are worse. I didn't collect as many black walnuts this year. I did pick up a few yesterday, but I've got 3 or 4 black walnut trees, and I just haven't had time to get out there. But I've got about 300 pounds of pecans, and I'll probably get more today. But again, I've got to run, but I will see you guys Monday. Hope you have a great weekend.